Good afternoon, my fellow Ambazonians. Good evening to you all, our people on Ground Zero. Welcome to this special broadcast for today. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining us. This is going to be extraordinary. This is going to be one of the most important broadcasts we're going to provide to our people. Thank you all for joining. All right. Welcome, fellow Ambazonians. Welcome, the great people. All right. Welcome all. All right, my fellow Ambazonians, I salute all una. Make well arrange these things put on for you. All right, better. Una welcome. Una good evening for our people them for Ground Zero, and una good afternoon for all Ambazonians for this side for North America, and for all our people them for that side for Europe and the Persian Gulf and the Middle East, even the people them for Asia, our people them for Japan, for China, for Singapore, for Malaysia, even for Hong Kong, even our people them for Australia. We salute una. I be una brother Asu, when the press secretary for the executive office for Ambazonia Governing Council. Today, I want can give una a report where it don't come out for one of the biggest educational institution for the United States of America. I want bring una the report and the research where one of the most respectable educational institution for the world, the University of the University of Stanford for the United States, for their research where they don't make them about the Ambazonia Defense Forces, for their research where they don't make them about the Ambazonia Governing Council and the Ambazonia Liberation. A lot of the things them where the people them for America, the big book people them, where they spend their time now for gather facts and evidence for present them to the world and to the international community. It be very important for this report with the Stanford University. It don't publish them about the Ambazonia Defense Forces. Wait till the Stanford University talk about the Ambazonia Defense Forces. Wait till the Stanford University talk about what the Ambazonia Defense Forces it represent and what they fight for. Wait till the Stanford University talk about the leadership when I create and I lead the Ambazonia Defense Forces. Now wait till they lead the Stanford University. It talk about the leadership of the Ambazonia Governing Council. Wait till also the Stanford University, it talk about the IG. And now wait till the Stanford University, it talk about the Cameroon colonial government. And how all of these things then, they shape what the Ambazonian people, they fight for, the forces where the Ambazonian people they fight against, and what the Ambazonian people they fight for. So my fellow Ambazonians and friends of Ambazonians, whenever they talk pidgin, whenever they hear pidgin, we're friends them for Biafra, we're friends them for across Nigeria, we're friends them for Ghana, we're friends them for even for other parts of West Africa, we're friends them for Sierra Leone, or we're friends them for the English-speaking parts of Africa, where una the year pidgin, una welcome. I go to bring una this report. It be very important for our people them because it go give una an insight about what you will fight for, what you will go through, and also the Stanford University. Stanford, he also talk about some of the challenges with the Ambazonia Governing Council and he arm wing the ADF. He talk about some of their problems with the face up. We go bring una all this report. Una welcome. All right. Stanford University, now one of the most reputable institution them for the United States of America. So when you want to name the top 5 universities for America, you know say Stanford, now one of them. So all many place they, so this report it come for place where it be reputable, for place where it be respected, for people that they do their work now based on research, facts, and evidence. Not be that people where they come now for entertain you, they just come their work now for present the facts to the world. Make we start. Stanford University talks say the Ambazonia Defense Forces, they form now for 2017. And at the same time where they launch the Ambazonia Governing Council. Now so the Stanford University, it start the story. Stanford talks say the first attack where the Ambazonia Defense Forces they carry out, they be carried out for September 9th for 2017 for inside the village of Bisongaba, where they near Mamfe for inside the state of Manu, and for they killed 3 La République du Cameroon forces. Now so Stanford, it talk 'em. And Stanford talks they say the Ambazonia Defense Forces now the most active. Now in this, now they say they talk 'em. The Ambazonia Defense Forces now the most active defense group for the war between Ambazonia and Cameroon, where then they call and say for the countries northwest and southwest for the civil conflict between the Cameroon government and the separatists. Stanford talks say the ADF now the arm wing for the Ambazonia Governing Council. And Stanford University talks say the ADF, their ultimate goal now for create a new state for Cameroon's English speakers, where they call and say Ambazonia. Stanford University, more repeat them again, it talks say the ADF, the ultimate goal now for create a state for Cameroon's English speakers, where they call and say Anglophones, where they call and say the new state in name na Ambazonia. And they talk say the Ambazonia Defense Forces is led by Cho Lucas Ayaba, who has been a separatist since 1990. So, what basically the Stanford University that they talk on, say the Ambazonia Defense Forces now one of the most active defense group where they fight for establish the independence and the state, a state for the people that they call and say English speakers, a state for people that they call and say Anglophones. So they talk say ADF, a goal, ADF, a purpose. Now for make sure say the people of Ambazonia, they figure a place where they call and say home. The people of Ambazonia, they get their own country. Now so Stanford, it talk and say, now ADF, a primary goal that, now what the ADF, they fight for that, now for make sure say they fit create a state and for give the Ambazonian people them a homeland. Now so Stanford, it talk am. Stanford talk say, because of the nature of the Cameroon government and the way the Cameroon government it fight the Ambazonian people them, the Ambazonia Defense Forces, their primary tactics, now the tactics for guerrilla warfare, and their aim for ADF, their purpose now for establish the state of Ambazonia, for give independence to the Anglophones as they call them. But they talk say their tactics where they use them, the approach where they use them, they use now guerrilla tactics. Number one, for prevent the Cameroon government making not ever get power again for inside the northwest and southwest. Una hear? Stanford, they describe the ADF, their strategy. Where number one, Now for make Cameroon government, make it not ever be able for project authority, control, saying that then they administer the people of Northwest and Southwest. So now ADF, their primary goal now for use guerrilla tactics for make sure say Cameroon government not get power again inside Ambazonia. Then the talk say they say the ADF them, because the ADF they face some challenges, that's why they go for use guerrilla tactics. And the talk say they say the ADF them too stand for the laugh ADF. That stand for talk say the ADF people them for the ADF forces them because of the lack of big material them. ADF since 2017 they use Odeshi. That's so stand for take a laugh. All right, and Stanford talks say they say most of the money for ADF for give the group which they want time it come out now for the Ambazonian people them with the day for diaspora. All right, and they could bring on the Stanford University. The talk say they say because the imbalance of power between how the ADF they fight and the big materials and with the Cameroon government you get them, the ADF they don't become very creative for the way that they take and for fight the Cameroon government. The ADF people them they don't become very smart for the way that they take for the Cameroon government. Stanford the talk say they say the Cameroon government the problem where it make them. We'll continue. Stanford talk say they say the Cameroon government it don't be controlled. The government for Cameroon it don't be controlled by majority by the French people them, and so they dominate the English speakers. And Stanford talk say they say the presidency of Cameroon for overseeing the independence of Cameroon it don't be controlled now by some person where they speak now French. It talks say the Francophones their interest now because say the people of the Northwest and Southwest, the people of Ambazonia, now because for those two regions, it get plenty natural resources, it get plenty minerals, it get plenty economic things the way that they give the country a lot of money, but the people them within the Northwest and Southwest, the people them who they call them say Ambazonians, the people there they call them say Anglophone Cameroons, they need the benefit from the natural resources where they come out for their own land. Now so Stanford take and talk am. And it talks say now all these things, the lack, say the people of the Ambazonian people, the more Anglophones, they don't get better voice within the government. They not get say that they take all the natural resources where they come out from the Northwest and Southwest. All those things, they only carry them, go for the French side, but the people them for the villages, the towns and the cities within the Northwest and Southwest, within Ambazonia, they need to get nothing in terms of development, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of education, in terms of hospital. The people, their own standard of living, it be very low compared to the other side, when the French side. That's so Stanford, it talk. Stanford talk say they say when the people they start for protest for all these complaints and what the people don't give them since 1961, when the people they don't start for complain for all these things and they start for protest for 2016, the government it deploy military for use excessive force for the people them, and as a result, where the government institute for kill the protesters and arrest the moderate voices, people them like Agbobala, people them like Dr. Fontaine-Nebat, they be considered them as moderate voices. See, when the government arrests those moderate voices, now for them now it can create a room for radical extremist activists for join in for this social protest where it be come in, and as the Cameroon they kill more and more Ambazonians, it make more sense for the radical voices within the Ambazonian struggle for become more dominant than the moderate voices. Now so Stanford, it take a start calling. And now the radical voices, now them now they be the people them where they push for the full actualization of Ambazonian independence. Now so Stanford, it take a it talk am. But it talks the problems of the Ambazonian people them, they don't start for a very long time. The problems of Anglophones. Say the Anglophones and for the diaspora for a very long time, they don't always call for the separation of Anglophones from the rest of Cameroon. But it can reach now for 2016 when the government is start for kill the Ambazonian people them, when the government is start for arrest people them, when the government is start for kill even speaking them, mami them, and it start for burn places, now it make them, even the people them for diaspora, they turn the Anglophone quest for full independence as it become a mainstream issue. You know, be now something when only book people they be the talker. So the talk say they say the Cameroon government it play a destructive part. Now Cameroon government actually be responsible for the escalation of the conflict. Stanford talks saying that the Cameroon government be responsible for make the war, for make this protest we start for 2016, 2017, from a protest where they be supposed to solve the problem. Now the Cameroon government it be responsible for make the problem escalate. So they can't reach for the place where now guns the dihala because the Cameroon government it banned all civil society organization them, and then it increased the violence on civilians, and then stand for the talk say international observers they don't report say the Cameroon government it use tactics of scorched earth policy, scorched earth tactics. Number one, the Cameroon government they kill civilians. Number two, the Cameroon government they jail activists. Number three, the Cameroon government they burn villages, towns, and cities. Number four, the Cameroon government they kill prisoners. Number five, the Cameroon government they torture picking them. Number six, the Cameroon government it block communication and it make life be very hard for everybody for the Anglophones region because it deploy forces where it give those forces overwhelming power. It give them powers where they use them for the powers the way they're supposed to use them for fight Boko Haram. They don't take those same powers. They give them for this police, gendarme, army, and beat them. And when they come for Ambazonia, they treat everybody as a terrorist. That's what stand for take and talk out. The Cameroon government is see every single Ambazonia as a terrorist. It see every single Ambazonia as a separatist. And therefore, every Ambazonia, as long as you be an Ambazonia, you be a separatist and the government classify you as a terrorist. Now the reason that way, the Cameroon military, it need to differentiate, it need to differentiate. It not care for check who you be. That's why every Ambazonia in the territory, they only see every Ambazonia now through the eyes of the poison where the Cameroon government don't put on for their head. May they consider every Ambazonia as a separatist and therefore as a terrorist. Stanford talk some things will be very important. Stanford talk say they say for 2017, Ayoktabe declared himself as the president of Ambazonia, and he can't make him. I put them for here for una. Stanford talk say Ayoktabe declared himself as the president of Ambazonia, and he not believe he create the interim government and he make himself the president, and they not believe for insurgency. So the interim government, according to the Stanford report, he not believe for use of violence. That's what Stanford write down. Say Ayoktabe be standing for civil disobedience, and he standing now for use diplomacy for fight for the actualization and the creation and the establishment of the Ambazonian state. So he can't make the Ayoktabe his own idea. Say they no want war, they no want armed resistance, they no want armed insurgency. It can't clash with the ideology where it don't become very popular for the armed resistance. And according to Stanford, the ADF, their goal, they create the ADF now as a force for protect the Anglophones Cameroons. That's what Stanford take and talk about. They create the ADF now as a force, number one, for protect Anglophone Cameroons against Cameroon brutality. That idea, it clash with Weti Ayoktabe and the interim government they stand for. They say they don't want war, they don't like war. And so, even the international community, including reputable international institutions, the report the outside, I encourage every Ambazonian, make it go read that. Because it go tell we a lot about what did go on outside of our independent opinions. Outside of our own small opinions and we don't form. Go read the independent report by reputable institutions. Go read facts and evidence. And empirical knowledge will be well grounded on facts. These things will be very important for we because they determine a lot what will happen within the Ambazonian struggle. So that's why I did bring all this information. Stanford talk clearly. Say there is a clash between the ideology of the interim government and the ideology of Dr. Chuayaba of the Governing Council of Ambazonia. There is a clash between how they go take them for fight Cameroon, how they go take them for confront Cameroon. One, the interim government say, you don't like war, you don't want anything we get for do with guns, you don't like armed insurgency, you don't like armed resistance. And number two, the ADF say, no, we must defend the Ambazonian people, we must protect the Ambazonian people, and we not fit fold our hand, we shidon. We talk say, okay, make Cameroon continue for be inside Ambazonia, and we not confront them. So Stanford, it point a very important contrast, an ideological difference, and why there is infighting between the IGs and the egg of C. Stanford don't point them out for we. Say now a matter of an ideology and approach. One believes say, if we just protest, and if we use diplomacy and go for court, then the international community, you go hold Cameroon and bring Ambazonia and them, give them independence. The Governing Council of Ambazonia say, no, it never ever work that way. It need to work that way. A person not fit occupy your land. A person not fit come inside your house, begin to kill your people then. And then you go back, you go wait now for the international community. But they can't stop it. The ADF, according to Stanford, they create them now for stop Cameroon atrocities and crimes on the Ambazonian people then. They create the Ambazonia Defense Forces. Now for stop Cameroon impunity on Ambazonians. This one at the Stanford report. So all this infighting, where Ambazonia and the Siam, between the IG and the Ambazonia Governing Council. All these talks, and Stanford point them out. Say that's why the IG come out, it can't condemn the ADF attacks on Cameroon government. Stanford point them out. He did it for the report. Say the IG talk, say he had no did it. They will not be part of it. It be very critical. Make what people they understand. And that's why the two groups, they need to see eye to eye. So, wait till they go on. Wait till they go on now. And wait till we don't see them in the Ambazonian public. Now a battle for ideology. Primarily, they create the IG as a moderate group. As a moderate group for the force of argument. Primarily, they create the IG as a moderate group for the SCNC ideology of the argument of force. I mean, the force of argument. And that their framework that, even though they need to speak them outside, even though they need to talk them outside, but now international experts and international political scientists, they help we for understand them today. And there is nowhere for that document where he talk about the IG, their intention for own a force or for create a force. There is nowhere. There is nowhere within the Stanford report where he even mentioned, say, any of the interim governments, they even get a force of their own. There is nowhere. Because the ideology is not being a forget a force. So all this big manism for where they make them outside about fighters. Not just a mask, because now the armed resistance, it don't show saying that the dominant ideology that for the Ambazonian people them, and so they try for hide behind these self-defense independent groups them on the ground. But in reality, the IG not believe in armed struggle. In reality, the IG not believe in self-defense. In reality, the IG not believe in guns as a way to battle Cameroon, protect the Ambazonian people them, and therefore push and challenge Cameroon occupation. That's why we get all these internal conflicts. That's why from the Southern Cameroon's International Town Hall, that's why all these small splinters of the IG, when they see that they talk about the ADF don't do this, ADF don't do that, now because the armed struggle on the ground will be led by the Ambazonia Defense Forces. It take away something essential from them. That's why then they always insist. And if I don't see them, then they describe Ambazonians as Southern Cameroons. Because the goal not be an independence. The goal now how for use, how for resolve the Cameroon problem as an issue between Anglophones and Francophones, as an issue between Southern Cameroons and La République du Cameroun. How they fix them. The goal of the IG not be independence. The goal of the IG now how for seek some form of a reconciliation, some form of a dialogue with Cameroon on behalf of all the colonial elites. Now how they get a political dialogue with the Cameroon. The only thing with stop the IGs, the Ayoktabe IG, the Sako IG, the Crisano IG, the Marianata IG, the Sako IG, the only thing will stop them from doing that now the Ambazonia Defense Forces. The only thing will stop the IGs from reconciliation and a direct dialogue with the Cameroon government without the international community. Now the armed resistance on the ground. Now the stumbling block that will stop the IG from a reconciliation with Cameroon. This one are based on even the Oxford, the Stanford report. So that's why when I see all these groups them, like the Southern Cameroons International Town Hall, all these other small groups them, they always call themselves as Southern Cameroons. They need to identify themselves as Ambazonia. Once you identify yourself as Ambazonia, you stand for total separation. You stand for total independence. That's why when I deceiving Fontaine by a group, they call them the Southern Cameroon Alliance. They fear for use the name Ambazonia. They fear for use the name Ambazonia. And for the Oxford report, Oxford talks say the name Ambazonia, it come out now from the father of Ambazonian separatist, Barrister Goji Dinka. When I give the Ambazonian people them the name Ambazonia, the man will win Cameroon government for the Bermuda High Court. And he defeat Paul Biya because he talks say Paul Biya don't secede for the union. And therefore, they go for restore Ambazonia. He talk him. Stanford report talk him. Why this one be important? It be important for the choice way the Ambazonian people then make him. But there is one important thing we Stanford talk him. And he talks say, Stanford talks say, one of the reasons where the Ambazonian struggle need to really move forward in terms of the fighting on the ground, now because there is not enough funding. There is not enough funding for give the Ambazonia Defense Forces them the extensive materials where they need them. And Stanford talks say, they say, if the Ambazonia Defense Forces, they get the extensive support, Cameroon government no go ever fit for control Ambazonia again. Now that lack of extensive resources, now they make them things that they slow down. And so Stanford take them talking. What all this one mean for now? What all this one mean for the Ambazonian people? Now remember, these things not been against a person. But I forgive our people them the clarity so that the staff will make the choices where they will lead for the kind of success where they want them. And I forgive our people them the clarity for make the intellectual and informed choice for move the liberation forward so that the Ambazonian people feel reduce the suffering of our people them, the killings of our people them, and the pain we come on the cause of our people them. That's why we get this discussion. Therefore, make choices from a position of intellectual understanding, not be based on your sentiments, not be based on whether you like some person or you don't like it. Facts and empirical evidence. They don't care about your feelings. When you go for bank, they need to care about your feelings. They care about the facts of the financial statement. All right? Certain things and for life. When today, the one can talk about Ambazonia and Cameroon, they will consider your feelings. They will consider the facts. They will consider the facts. The facts, if the Cameroon government still get a greater control of Ambazonia, now facts them that. If the Cameroon government is still get better control in terms of administration, in terms of gendarmes, a police, and a colonial authority, those things are facts. And you know will get anything for do with your opinion or your feelings. Those things now they go facts and that. And if the Ambazonian people, they get a greater control of most of Ambazonia, and they don't push Cameroon occupation forces and the colonial administrator out of Ambazonia, then those things will be facts. Now those things, they go determine anything will happen on the negotiating table. Who go get more of a leverage? And the Cameroon government get an upper hand through its colonial elites, when they actually speak and fight for Cameroon, and through the colonial army, police, gendarme, for control the narrative, or na the Ambazonian people, or na the liberation leadership, and the forces on the ground. Oh, one thing we Stanford talk about, I forget for tell now. Stanford talk say they say the general of the Ambazonia Defense Forces, the first one, he named like General Ivo, and they be killed for December for 2018. And Stanford also talks say they say after General Ivo, now General Efang, yes, General Efang. Stanford know your name, oh. They know all now. They know all man. Stanford talks say now General Efang, he be the supreme commander of Ambazonia Defense Forces, and I lead the war on the ground. Now so Stanford take him talk him. He did it for the entire Stanford report. All right. So who get more leverage? The more the Ambazonian people, they understand why Stanford they talk about. First of all, more ask the question: why be say Oxford University, the World Bank? You get Oxford University, you get the World Bank report, you get the UN report. Now you get the Oxford report. Why be say all of these institutions them? They write now about the Governing Council and the Ambazonia Defense Forces. When I don't ask myself why the Oxford University report, it focused so much on the Ambazonia Governing Council and the Ambazonia Defense Forces? Why the World Bank report, it focused so much on Ambazonia Governing Council and Ambazonia Defense Forces? And why now the Oxford report, the whole report now about the ADF? They just bring the other one them inside as part of the report. But the entire report, it be focused on Ambazonia Defense Forces. Why? It be important for we. Because the Ambazonia Defense Forces are an institution. The Ambazonia Defense Forces are a credible institution where they create them through a political organization. It is under a political leadership and it be clearly defined. It be clearly defined because they establish them through international processes and procedures. It be important. It give you an international personality. It give you an international reputation. And Oxford talks say the way they create the Ambazonia Defense Forces, till this day, there is no country on the face of the earth we don't classify the Ambazonia Defense Forces as a terrorist organization. That's what Oxford take and talk. He said no government and no international, no country for this world, it don't label the ADF as a terrorist organization except the Cameroon government. Now only the Cameroon government, it don't label all Ambazonia liberation movements and the forces on the ground as terrorist movements. So it'd be very, very important. The Oxford report, it talks, they say Dr. Ayabacho, it don't get a separatist ideology since the 1990s. Another year, Oxford report talks, since 1990s, Dr. Cho Ayaba, it don't be na a separatist. Another year, they not talk since 1990, Dr. Cho be the fight for the reformation of Cameroon. They talk since 1990s, Dr. Cho Lucas Ayaba, it don't be na a separatist. That's what they talk about that report. So now, if you give una a sense of direction about the leadership of the liberation and why it stands for what it stands for. The leadership of the liberation under the Governing Council of Ambazonia, it stands for what it stands for because enough is stand for see the Ambazonian people them, especially who are picking them. They live through such suffering, through such pain, through such degradation, through such humiliation, through such trauma. The Ambazonia Governing Council in office Siam, where people they don't go through such torture, such poverty, such dehumanization. And in office stand for give them a homeland. That's why the Governing Council of Ambazonia, it takes such a tough stance against Cameroon. For make sure say, wetin they don't put what people through, wetin they don't take what people through, wetin what people don't go through, wetin what people get them as a people and as a state. It don't be enough for what people them for tell Cameroon say enough be enough. And they create the ADF now for stand between the Ambazonian people and Cameroon. And the Governing Council, it advocate for nothing other than the total and unconditional independence for the Ambazonian people. We believe, so the only way for the Ambazonian people them forget a future will be bright. The Governing Council believe the only way for the Ambazonian people them forget a future will be hopeful. A future where the Ambazonian people fit take their own destiny and then manage them. And then look after their natural resources. Determine the create economic opportunities for our people them. Create educational opportunities. Create development for our people them. And develop our people their intellectual, their commercial, their entrepreneurial, their scientific abilities. Now for give them a space, a sovereign state, when they necessarily they mold their destiny. And therefore create a democratic society where it be an all-inclusive society, where it give every single person an opportunity. The Ambazonia Governing Council not believe, say the Ambazonian people and Cameroon will ever coexist. The differences in culture and the intoxication of the French culture and their quest for make sure say they use assimilation for dilute what people them and turn them into second-class citizens. There is no way the Ambazonian people them, where they don't live this kind through this tyranny. It not be possible for any compromise or coexistence with Cameroon. That's why we appeal for our people them. Forgive our people them the opportunity as the world change, as the world they align, as the British they now that they warn Cameroon and Russia. Say if Cameroon dare for bring Russian mercenaries into Ambazonia for fight this war, the British don't promise for deploy the British special forces inside Ambazonia for stop Russian mercenaries from entering the Ambazonian territories. As the world take a different view, a different look, in light of what did happen for Ukraine. As the world see now the war in Ambazonia, Russia invasion of Ukraine and Russia aggression on Ukraine, Russia occupation of Ukraine, the Americans and the West, they see say the Cameroon invasion of Ambazonia and Cameroon occupation of Ambazonia and Cameroon aggression on Ambazonia, it also got for stop. Before the world aligned, we get a responsibility for defend the Ambazonian children, for defend the rights of our people them, for defend the hopes of our people them, for not leave and make fraud. The price we don't pay them because of Cameroon fraud and manipulation of our people them over the last 61 years. Make we not live and make it define the next decades of our people, their lives. The fraud must come to an end. The lie must come to an end. We must stand up as the people of Ukraine, that is stand up for the rights of the Ukrainian people. We must stand up for defend the sovereignty of Ambazonia and the territorial integrity of Ambazonia as the Ukrainian people that is stand up to Russian aggression, Russian invasion, and Russian occupation. The Ukrainian mommy and papa them and picking them all across the world, they rally themselves for save the lives of the Ukrainian people and for make sure so they protect the sovereignty of the Ukrainian state. With the appeal and call on all Ambazonians for stand up for protect Ambazonia. We call on the people of the good people of the world for stand up in solidarity with the Ambazonian people them. For stand up for end Cameroon invasion of Ambazonia, Cameroon occupation of Ambazonia, Cameroon genocide on Ambazonia, Cameroon tyranny on Ambazonia. Tomorrow, we go be on a Saturday, number 30 day for this month of April. The Ambazonia Governing Council, it could get a monthly fundraiser for mobilize resources, for raise more money, for put more arms, for defend the Ambazonian people then, for protect our communities, and chase the terrorist and genocidal Cameroon army, police, gendarmes out of our land. So they call on all Ambazonians. Say tomorrow on a Saturday, number 30 day for this month, for April for 2022. We're gonna join we for mobilize more resources as the Oxford University don't point them out. Say the only thing with stop Ambazonia independence, not the lack of resources. If ADF they get enough resources, the occupation will end very soon. So I call on everybody. I call on all papa them. I call on all mommy them. I call on all brothers and I call on all sisters. I call on friends of Ambazonians and good people of the world. And I can't support the Ambazonian people. All right? So that Oxford report, Stanford report, we don't put them all for WhatsApp. I go find a way for put them here for this video. I go put them as a link for this video for every person who if you take the time for read the report. All right? We'll continue for appeal for our people then and appeal for the forces on the ground. We'll hold on the ground. We'll continue for work together. We'll continue for collaborate together. We'll continue for stand as one force, for stand for one thing with the Ambazonian people for this generation don't ask for. They don't ask for a sovereignty. They ask for full independence. They ask for a right for existence as a people under the Ambazonian state. And we tell our people that they fight for this. We fight now for the dignity of our people. So tomorrow, we'll see for the fundraiser. For now, we'll get a blessed Saturday. We'll get a blessed Friday. We'll get a good weekend. May God bless all now. Or when I get my phone number. If you don't get my phone number, please. If you always message me for WhatsApp, if you message me for Facebook, even for YouTube here, if you leave a comment, maybe you talk to me, we'll contact you. We'll find a way for contact you. If you get way, any place you did for this world, make sure say you send your donations. Any place you did for this world, tell we place we did. We'll tell you how you feel make your donations, make them reach the Ambazonia Governing Council. And once they receive your contributions, they always send you a receipt, and they send you a letter of appreciation and letter of acknowledgement. All right? We thank you plenty. Make you stay strong. We'll talk for you tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow, and we'll look forward for the contributions and tomorrow. All right? May God bless you now. When I get a blessed day. Bye for now.